The Caspian Sea, everyone. The Caspian Sea. It is a very, very important point of geopolitical contention, and prepare to start seeing the Caspian Sea getting mentioned in the headlines. Why is this? Well, it's because of Kazakhstani oil. That's the reason why. Oil in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a major source of oil, and it is where the Germans are getting a lot of their oil. Germany is getting a lot of its oil from Kazakhstan. The problem is that the Germans have to go through the Russians to get that Kazakhstani oil. They can't just transport the oil from Kazakhstan across the Caspian Sea. No. They have to get the oil from Kazakhstan through the Russians into the rest of Eastern Europe, into Central Asia, and the Germans want to change this. The Germans want to make it so that they can get the oil from Kazakhstan across the Caspian Sea into Azerbaijan, from Azerbaijan into Turkey, and Turkey is a major ally of the Germans. They have been an ally with Turkey going all the way back to the 1870s when Germany actually became a real country. But here is the problem. There is this nuisance in the middle of all of this, and that is Armenia. Why is Armenia a nuisance? Well, because Armenia is a major ally to the Russians, and Armenia is an enemy of Turkey, and Turkey's a big part of NATO. It's the second most armed country in NATO, and also Armenia is an ally to the biggest enemy of Israel right now, Iran, which is also a major enemy of the United States. And so Armenia is an ally of the Iranians and the Russians, and it's right there in the middle. It is right there as a nuisance to this whole aspiration, to this whole plan of getting oil from Kazakhstan across the Caspian Sea into Azerbaijan, and from Azerbaijan into Turkey. Well, it's the reason for this is because Armenia is sandwiched in between Azerbaijan. It's sandwiched in between Azerbaijan, and the Armenians have this whole focus on the Armenian genocide, and the Europeans have to give off this facade that they are very sensitive to Armenia's trauma from the Armenian genocide, so they have to be very sensitive about that. They can't be supporting Turkey too much, but at the same time, they want that Kazakhstani oil because they want to get that oil from Kazakhstan across the Caspian Sea into Azerbaijan, from Azerbaijan into Turkey, but they have to go through Armenia, and that is a Russian ally, and it's also an Iranian ally. And that's the reason why the Turks want to build the Zangezur corridor. Because you see, if you look at what happened back in 2020, this is very serious stuff here, guys. What happened back in 2020? The Armenians and the Azeris had a war over Nagorno-Karabakh. Nagorno-Karabakh is a region that really historically has been Armenian. It's been Armenian. It was Armenian going all the way back millennia. And the Azeris, well, they believe that it belongs to them. And back in the late 80s, going into the mid-90s, there was a major war between the Armenians and the Azeris over Nagorno-Karabakh. And the Armenians defeated the Azeris with the backing of Iran. Iran gave Armenia vital backing to defeat the Azeris. And the Iranians, they want to keep Armenia empowered. They don't like the fact that Nagorno-Karabakh was taken. It was taken by the Azeris back in 2020. They don't like that because that means Armenia is narrowed, which it has been. Armenia was narrowed by the war in 2020. Armenia got a lot smaller, and that weakens a border ally that Iran has. And the Iranians don't like that. Back in 2020, the war got revived, and the Azeris said, we're going to take Nagorno-Karabakh back because the Armenians took Nagorno-Karabakh, and they defeated the Azeris. So in 2020, the Azeris said, we're taking it back, and they did. They defeated the Armenians because they were armed with Turkish Bayraktar state-of-the-art drones. It's part of the whole NATO defense technological apparatus. And the Azeris got these drones from the Turks, and the whole world saw Azerbaijan defeat Armenia with Turkish-made drones. And this was Turkey's big accomplishment. Turkey felt very, very proud of itself because now the world saw that Turkey can make very efficient weaponry. And Nagorno-Karabakh now belongs to Azerbaijan, which means that Armenia got smaller. Armenia got more narrow. Armenia is sandwiched in between Azerbaijan. So imagine Canada being sandwiched in between the United States. If you look at a map, I mean, I'm sure all of you guys know this, you'll see Canada, North America, and then on the top, you'll see Alaska. Well, Alaska is a part of the United States. It does not share a contiguous border with the United States, but it's America. So Canada is sandwiched in between the United States. Armenia is in a similar situation, but the only difference between Canada and the Canadian situation and the Armenian situation is that America doesn't want to genocide Canadians. The Azeris want to genocide Armenians. The Turks want to resume from where they left off in the Armenian genocide. And this is why the whole thing is quite terrifying, because it's not just oil. It's oil at the expense of human life. Armenia is a nuisance. It's a Russian and Iranian ally, and it's right there as a hindrance. But the thing is that the Azeris defeated the Armenians in 2020. They took Nagorno-Karabakh. And so Azerbaijan got bigger. That means that Turkey got bigger, because really Turkey sees Azerbaijan as an extension of itself, and vice versa. The Azeris see themselves as Turks, and the Azeris say, we are the same nation as those in Turkey. And they say Turkey and Azerbaijan, one nation, two states. That's the logo. That's the saying. So you have Turkey, Nakhchivan, which is part of Azerbaijan, and then you have Armenia, and then you have Azerbaijan. Now that the Azeris took Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan got bigger, Armenia got smaller, and there is this region between Nakhchivan and Nagorno-Karabakh, and that is called Syunik, the Syunik region, which is the southernmost region of Armenia, and it borders with Iran. The Turks want to build a corridor called the Zangezur Corridor so that they can have direct access from Turkey through Nakhchivan, through Armenia. They want to go right through Armenia into the rest of Azerbaijan, from Azerbaijan into the Caspian Sea. From the Caspian Sea, they can go directly into Kazakhstan, and that will give the Turks and the Germans direct access to Kazakhstani oil, and that would give the Germans a direct trade route from Kazakhstan through the Caspian Sea into a NATO ally, Azerbaijan. From Azerbaijan right to a major member of NATO, Turkey. And that's why when Azerbaijan defeated Armenia and did war crimes, the West did nothing. Turkey supported it. The Germans paid lip service. They said, oh, let's come on, Azerbaijan, be nice. But the Germans didn't give a damn. America supported Azerbaijan. Israel supported Azerbaijan because Azerbaijan is an enemy of the Iranians, and Iran is the biggest enemy of Israel right now, the biggest threat to Israel right now. And that's why the Israelis support the Azeris against the Armenians. They want to weaken an Iranian ally, just like they want to weaken Syria, which is an Iranian ally, just like they want to destroy Hezbollah, which is a major ally to Iran. The Israelis want to do the same thing to the Armenians. They want to weaken an Iranian ally. They want to really just get rid of it if they could. But by taking that Nagorno-Karabakh region, they have narrowed Armenia down, and they have made it easier for the Turks to cross right into the rest of Azerbaijan from Nakhchivan. The problem is the sensitivity. The idea of Turkey just walking right through Armenia, not giving a damn about Armenian territory or respecting Armenian space, respecting Armenia's integrity, territorial integrity. That's what this is about. Because let's not forget, Turkey genocided the Armenians. So for Turkey to say, well, we just want to build a corridor, cross right past you guys. We don't give a damn about your territory. We don't give a damn if we killed a million of your people back in World War I. We don't really give a damn. We just want to go right through your territory so we can take that Kazakhstani oil. And the Germans also want this as well because they don't want to depend on the Russians. This is also ultimately about weakening the Russians. This is also ultimately why the Americans support Azerbaijan, because by getting the Azerbaijanis to really defeat the Armenians, they can get that oil from Kazakhstan through the Caspian Sea, and that would weaken Russia's control over Germany's energy supply. And just a few days ago, the major EU politician who is a foreign representative for the EU, Mr. Josep Borrell, went to Kazakhstan. And what did he talk about? More connectivity between the Europeans and Kazakhstan. Well, what's that about? That is talking about the Caspian Sea. That's what that is about. And remember what Trump said years ago about the Germans? He said, you guys are slaves to the Russians. What was he talking about? That was America goading the Germans. Hey, you guys are Russia's little oil slave, little energy slave. Don't you guys want to be independent? And what happened not too long after that? Oh, Angela Merkel made a trip to Azerbaijan. Talking about what? Oil. Because Azerbaijan is also a major supplier of oil. But if you can get that oil from Kazakhstan, you can get even more oil, and you'll be even more independent of Russia's control. If they can get that oil they're already getting oil from Kazakhstan, but if they can get that oil from Kazakhstan through the Caspian Sea into NATO ally Azerbaijan, and then from there into major NATO member Turkey, that is where Germany can really have serious energy independence, and it would have much more power. And it wouldn't be in such a position of trying to placate and trying to appease Russia, or trying to be friendly with the Russians and maintain diplomacy with the Russians. It wouldn't have to do that so much, because why would it? At that point, it wouldn't be dependent on an oil trade route from Russia. So it's about weakening Russia so that the Germans can be more empowered. And let's not forget, the Germans are talking about being war ready. They're talking about having a war with Russia. I mean, we're going back to World War I, World War II, everyone. And really, the Turks, they want to resume from where they left off in the Armenian genocide. They don't just want Nagorno-Karabakh. And you never know, maybe the Zangezur corridor may never be built. It may just be that in the future, the Turks are just going to say, we're going to invade Armenia, because they really want to control that area. If they can take Armenia off the map, then they really have direct access into the Caspian Sea, because Azerbaijan is basically just part of Turkey. All you got is this little nuisance called Armenia. Armenia is a nuisance. That little country with its system of a down rock and roll, talking about the Armenian genocide and calling the Turks sodomizers, they got to get rid of that country. They have to remove that power that Armenia has. They have to remove it. And that's why the Armenian genocide is going to revive. That is the reason why the Armenian genocide is going to resume. Because Armenia is a Russian ally, an Iranian ally, and it's right there in the middle. And the Turks and the Germans, they want that Kazakhstani oil. And we've seen this sort of thing before. I mean, if this happens, it wouldn't be the first time where you would see the Turks and the Germans collaborating over the shedding of blood of Armenians. Back in World War I, the Turks butchered 1 million Armenians, and what did the Germans do? The Germans sat and watched. They sat and watched the whole damn thing, and they didn't give a damn. And the German government gave strict orders. Do not get involved. Do not get involved. Let the Turks butcher the Armenians. Let them. Why? Well, because the Armenians were friendly with the Russians. And what did the Turks say to justify butchering the Armenians? Well, it wasn't just because the Armenians refused to Ottomanize. It was also because the Armenians were very friendly with the Russians, and the Armenians were accused of what? Being traitors. Being traitors for the Russians. Being people who were disloyal to the Ottoman Empire and people who sided with the Russians. And the Germans were in a war with who at the time? With the Russians in World War I. The Germans were in a war with the Russians. They didn't care if the Ottomans wanted to butcher the Armenians. They didn't give a damn. And what happened in 2020? Did we not see videos of war crimes? Did we not see videos of executions of Armenian civilians in Nagorno-Karabakh? Did we not see a video of an Azeri soldier putting his boot on the chest of an Armenian man as he was being decapitated alive? Did we not see a video of an elderly Armenian man begging for mercy as the Azeri soldier puts the blade on his neck and begins to decapitate him alive? Did we not see this shit? And the Western world stood by it? Did we not see ethnic cleansing being done in Nagorno-Karabakh? Did we not hear the news about Azeri soldiers going through Nagorno-Karabakh, telling Armenians through a loudspeaker, if you don't leave, we're going to kill you? Driving thousands of people out of their villages, out of their homes? Did we not see ethnic cleansing? Did we not see open racism being done, racial policy being done by a NATO ally? Did Israel not support those bastards? They did. And Israel's always talking about the Holocaust, the Holocaust, the Holocaust. We saw a damn ethnic cleansing policy being implemented before our eyes in 2020. And who was talking about it? The Catholic Mel frickin' Gibson, who everyone accuses of being anti-Semitic. And he was the one talking about it. He's an anti-Semite. He's the one talking about the ethnic cleansing, not you, Israel. You're full of shit, Israel. You're full of shit. And what is this about? Why allow such human suffering to happen? Because money, oil. That's what this is. It's like that story in the Old Testament. Jezebel told Ahab, take that man's vineyard. What was his name? Ahab in the vineyard. He says, take that man's vineyard. And Ahab says, okay. And he goes to the Naboth. Yeah, Ahab went to Naboth and said, let me buy your vineyard. Naboth says it's not for sale. And Ahab kills Naboth for the vineyard. And there was a curse on Israel for that. A curse on Ahab's family for that. And that's what this is. They want that oil. They want that wine of the earth. We got to get that oil. Well, what do? We got this thing called Armenia right in the middle. Oh, well, let's build a corridor, the Zangezur corridor, so that we can go from Nakhchivan, from Turkey into Nakhchivan, through Armenia into the rest of Azerbaijan, from there into the Caspian Sea. From there, we can get a trade route going from Kazakhstan into Azerbaijan to get that oil right into Turkey. Well, we got Armenia there. Well, we'll just build a damn corridor. Well, that's kind of insensitive, don't you think? Don't you think it's insensitive that the one who genocided the Armenians wants to disrespect and just shit all over the territorial integrity of Armenia? Well, that's true. The Germans are saying, well, we have to give a facade of being sensitive and nice to the Armenians' historic suffering, and we can't. But it's there. That nuisance is there. It's right there. It's right there. And you watch. Someone put a comment on my video. That's what spurred me to do this video. Someone put a comment on my video, my last video today, saying, Ted, look at Kazakhstan. It's the next Ukraine. And I think it's true. I think Kazakhstan is going to be the next Ukraine. It's a major point of contention because of all the oil, and the Germans want their hands on that oil. They're getting the oil, but they want to get that oil without having to go through Russia. They want to weaken the Russians, and the Russians, they are going to be setting their eyes on Kazakhstan. They already have their eyes on Kazakhstan, don't get me wrong. But remember, back in a couple years ago, there were these riots. 2022, there was all those riots in Kazakhstan against the government. What do you think that was about? It's very sad to see what's going on, but this is the reason why the Armenian genocide is going to happen again. That's the reason why, because Armenia it's that little monkey wrench in the machine. They got to pull it out. They got to pull it out because they don't want to be dependent on the Russians to get the oil transported from Kazakhstan. They want to go right through the Caspian Sea into Azerbaijan, and well, Armenia's there. Just put the corridor in there, and just who cares about Armenian territorial integrity? I mean, that's the type of stuff that's being said. That's what's going on here. It's very sad to see what's going on in the world. Very, very sad. But this is the reality that we live in. the peace that we have grown so accustomed to since the end of the Second World War, it's deteriorating. It's falling apart. It's coming down. I hate to say it, guys, but that's the world we live in. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.